Greetings, conversationalists, deep thinkers, and for the next several weeks, hopefully, Republican primary voters. We're going to start voting on Tuesday. This is an important time. The tough part is people don't even think about primaries that much, and they definitely don't think about them during these off elections when it's not the midterms. Now, this is a pretty important election for many reasons. One, there are many elections that whoever wins this primary will be in the seat that they're running for. Nobody's running on the Democrat side. The other situation, like we're dealing with today, we're trying to find the best Republican to run against whoever Democrats have. And of course, you've heard about some of the crazy people they have. And this race that we're going to be talking about today, I'm interviewing people, is for the United States Senate. Probably there's no bigger office than that, especially when you see everything's going on at the federal level. We have three people running on the Republican side. John Cornyn, which has been there for many years. Some people like him, some people don't. I could probably say, if I was talking to him, thank you for your service, but I think it's time for you to retire and do something else because it doesn't seem like he is helping out the Republicans like I would like him to. At least there's two others. Ken Paxton, which is our Texas Attorney General. He's been doing a great job. I like him. He went to Baylor University. We might be able to get an interview with him sometime. I'm not sure. Some people might have little problems with him. He just recently went through a divorce. There's been some other legal entanglements. I feel like some of that entanglements he's had is because of how aggressive he's been on fighting the government, the federal government garbage. He'd be a good man. There's nothing I can say bad about him. But there's another man that I just think the world of. His name is Wesley Hunt. He's a congressman from Houston, probably one of the most conservative people we have in the Texas, in the Republican, the state house, not state house, in the U.S. Congress representing Texas. He used to be a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Extremely smart, big time supporter of President Trump. We need to decide. Number one, we need, if this goes through a runoff, and he's saying it might, he's saying there's a good possibility. If you look at the numbers for all of them, they're real close. So you have to go over 50% to win. So somebody's going to have to really run away with it. I think Wesley could. But of course, he's expecting a runoff. But I've got an interview here with Wesley, a very short one. And then I'm not even sure how long it is, but probably a little over an hour speech that he gave right here in McLean County. He's trying to hit all the counties. Think about 245 counties. That's a lot of counties. And he's hitting multiple ones per day to try to make sure he talks to as many people as possible. I think that's a big point. I know Ken works hard. I know Wesley works hard. We can see that. He tells a lot of stories about him and President Trump flying on Air Force One and some of the things that's going on. I think you'll enjoy the interview, but more important, I think you'll get some insight about this man to help you vote, decide on who you want to vote for. We also have later, maybe a week into the primary, we're going to have an interview with some of the different precinct chairs. I'm, of course, a precinct chair elect, and we're going to be talking about what's on the ballot, who we like on this. Not necessarily you have to follow that, but kind of a ballot guideline. We don't agree. I can tell you that already. We've been, out of the three I know that will be on here, we've been talking about the possibilities of the different ones, and for different reasons, we disagree on certain ones. But we'll give you the reasons why so you can kind of understand. But this interview series for this election, I think will be important to give you plenty of information. Thank you for watching. Coming up next is the interview, and then, like I said, it's the speech, and we'll go from there. You have a good day. Please like, subscribe, share it everywhere, because we want more people to get this information, because the worst thing we can have happen in a primary or any race is voter apathy. Think about how many people were registered. Why do they not vote? Because they don't know who to vote for. Well, this will help. So please share it, get that information out, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much for watching. Stop the tape. Oh, I forgot something I needed to tell you. Two things. The cameraman for this speech that he did was lousy. It was me. The reason it was bad was because, number one, just forget about the date that's up in the corner, left-hand side. I didn't even look while I was doing it and notice that it was set 2 years ago or something. Blame me. The other thing is the sound is not real good in this speech. The reason for that is I don't know if you know where our Republican office is, Westview Village. There's an outdoor mall area, which is kind of all concrete. And we needed a big space to take care of everybody. Well, we went in there. The downfall is one, you get a lot of outside noises. And number two, it's all concrete, so it echoes real bad. Please, there's good stuff in this meeting, or in this speech. Like I said, we're going to have more. We're going to have one from this coming Thursday, too, from other candidates. But please watch it. I think you're going to like it. So anyway, thank you. Hello, everyone. David Russell again, David Russell Show. We are very happy to have Wesley Hunt here running for the U.S. Senate for Texas. Now, I want to point this out. He is here in McClellan County. You can see our poster here. He is talking to everyone. This is a very important race, probably the most important one that's on our ballot now. And Wesley's here to talk to people. Wesley, thank you for coming.
God bless you. Thank you very much for having me.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
What would you like to tell? There might be 500 people or so watching this. What would you like to tell them? We know that we want them to come out and vote in this next 2 weeks. Voting starts Tuesday. Voter apathy is a killer. We need to make sure if they have any older people, older grandparents or whatever, take them to the polls, help them vote. If you know people in rest homes, they love to get out and vote. Help them with who to vote for. This is a 3-person race. I think we could see very easily it could be won in this election only, and not have to have a runoff.
It's looking like a runoff, though.
It's a good possibility it might be, but we want to make sure you're one of the ones.
Yes, sir.
That's nothing
right.
else.
That's right.
So, what else can we tell them that's important?
I'm a person that served this great country.
Yes.
I'm a military guy. I am a West Point graduate. I'm an Apache pilot, combat veteran, with 55 combat missions in Baghdad. I already served this country before.
Yes.
I want to die for this country. I bleed red. I bleed Texas. I don't care where you're from. As long as you are in the Texas boat, we're on the same team. And there's going to be a lot of things that get said about me that aren't true. But thank God I was prepared for them.
You're tough.
And hardened in battle.
Sure.
And I want people to give me the opportunity to serve the people of Texas in the halls of the Senate.
Another thing I think is important is on any elected office, you need someone that will work. Now, out of the 3, there's a couple that seems to work. You're, of course, one of them. There's one that I think is probably pretty well said. It's almost like a retirement program. Been there a little while.
It's too long.
I think that if people look how hard you work, they would see that you would be working very hard.
Yeah. Well, I think people see that, and then, again, we're going to be in a different county, in a different city every single day until election day for the next 2 weeks, and I have been for the past going on 2 months now. We have worked tirelessly. We're the only one that actually running a campaign because we're not running from our record. We believe in what we stand for, and it's up to me to actually face the voters and the people that are going to cast their vote to make their next senator from Texas. And I think it's very important for me to be in all parts of Texas in order to make that happen, and I'm not going to stop.
I want to thank you for stepping up to run. Campaigns are no fun. It's nice to meet people, but then you get the whatever bad things said that often, like you said, are not true. And of course, it's hard to say every time, hey folks, this is not true. But I want to thank you for running. Number one, being a good man of God. Number two, maybe it should be the other way around. And then number three, we've got to get you on that.
And then please, I want everybody to go out, make sure you pray for us, pray for your leadership, and pray for this country.
You bet you.
The Lord will bless us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
God bless you, sir. Have a good evening. You too.
Sure thing.
First of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this day, for allowing him as possible, and we have the greatest country in the world because of his grace in this world. Good. Also, I want to thank you all so much for your time. The time that we have on this earth is not forever. So the fact that you choose to spend it on what I think today is Friday, to kind of lose track of the days here. Friday afternoon, the fact that you would spend your time here, to hear from somebody that loves this country, that loves the state, that's passionate about the future of this country, and is doing my level best to save this country from those who don't want to sit right there in that seat. You're why I do everything that I do. This job is not difficult. Running for Senate is very hard. I mean, Texas is a big state. I'm finding out tomorrow. And even though I was born and raised here and travel all over the state, what a blessing it is to be able to travel around my great state in the entire world, my home state, and to meet people from different parts of the world, from different cities, from different counties, different walks of life, different priorities. We all have the honor and the privilege of calling ourselves Texans. I come from a military family. It was very fun. I was just actually down in Bell County, not far from Fort Hood, where I was stationed for a while. I see my sister and I were stationed there. I was in Fort ID. She was in first cast. She had a really big patch. She thought she was really cool. My dad's retired, lieutenant colonel in the military. My sister went to West Point, my family first. She served 23 years active duty as a military intelligence officer. I went to West Point, my family second. Served as an Apache helicopter pilot. So 55 combat aircraft back now for 2 tours of duty in Saudi Arabia. I've lived in countries that don't let Sharia law. I've seen it with my own eyes. I can assure you that Sharia law has no place in Texas or this country. We have our own constitution, we have our own constitutional republic. That's it. If you can't come here and simply live by our rules, by our laws, you're in the wrong place. We need leaders that are willing to stay that demonstratively and unafraid and unapologetic. And that's who I am. My brother is also a West Point. He wanted to serve 5 years in the United States Navy active duty and went on to get his master's from Harvard Business School. For 60 years of the military service just in my immediate family. 60 years. I always tell the story before I get any speeches because I'm most proud of that. Because that's the kind of service and sacrifice that it takes to preserve this republic. It's not just my family, it's thousands of families all over this great country that lend their sons and daughters to this country to defend her against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Now, there are many of my classmates that didn't make it back home alive. See, there were 15 of them that were killed in the Global War on terror. I always talk about them when I give these speeches. And I never forget them every single day. Because but not for the grace of God, there I could have been. But that is the motivation that I get to get up every day to find ways to serve this nation. Because they don't involve in the sacrifice, they're no longer here to serve for themselves. The one point I'd like to bring up is they were mostly 14 white guys. And when they gave their last confession, they did for black people, for white people, for Asian people, for Hispanic people. They did it for all Americans. And I'm sick and tired and sick of watching the left divide us along racial lines. I stand before you today as the great-great-grandson of a man who was living on a plantation. His name was Cyrus Crawford, who was on a Rosedale plantation about 30 miles north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Three of his great-great-grandchildren went to West Point. Three of his great-great-grandchildren served this country in combat. At one point, my brother, sister, and I were all deployed at the same time. Dad for 2 months. We had a praying mother, a praying community, and a praying church. One of his great-great-grandchildren, me, became a United States congressman in a white majority district that President Trump would have won by 20 points, and I won by 25 points. I'm literally being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. And this is the Texas that I know and love. As I travel the state, the last thing I see is skin color. What I see are freedom-loving Texans, freedom-loving Americans that just want American culture for our children, for our grandchildren, for our great-great-grandchildren. That's all we want. It's about time that we had voices in the halls of the Senate that articulated that exact sentiment. Ladies and gentlemen, I have skin in me. I have a 7, a 5, and a 3-year-old at my house that I love more than life itself. And although for the last few months I told my wife you weren't with me while I was in the military, but I'm deploying for the next 2 months. We're gonna get a little bit of taste of that. And as difficult as it is to leave, last weekend I guess my daughter's 7th birthday. At some point, I want to look at their father and look and say, he did everything that he could in his power to leave this place better than he found it. That is all. And I am someone that wants to give my best years back to my country, a country that has given me the American dream. I also believe that the United States Senate is not a retirement community. I also believe in term limits. 24 years is long enough to be United States Senator. In fact, the first time John Cooper was elected to office as judge, I was 11 months old. Career politicians are why this country is headed in the wrong direction. It really is that simple, and because of that, I'm going to commit to you 2 terms, 12 years, long enough. And I mean that, because I got a 3-year-old boy at my house, and I always talk about my hero who is my father, still right there. And I need to go home at some point and be the father to him like my father was to me. And you can't do that by being on 138 flights every year for 2 decades. It's ridiculous. But what happened to John Cornyn was this. He lost touch with the people of Texas. Spend enough time up there, that tends to happen. That's why you call for gun control legislation in Texas. That is why you go off the bills that allow 50,000 Afghans without being probably dead into this country. I was the first person in the country to endorse President Trump on this last week. I was one of his top surrogates with a campaign trail. Traveled with him all over this country, opened for him for numerous rallies. The most consequential election in my life, I got to play a key role in that. And thank God he got elected, because I could not imagine a world where Kamala Harris was going to be our president. But we all know that John Cornyn is another term. We all know he never liked it. We all know he's a Bush-era rival Republican. Everyone knows this. And that's why he's in this position. You can't spend $80 million on a primary and still be polling in the 20s. You could put a cowboy hat on all day and say you voted for Trump 99% of the time. You people are not stupid. And the reason why he thinks you are is because he spent too much time in D.C. and stopped coming home. He has a home in D.C. and an apartment in Texas. I will always have a home in Texas and an apartment in D.C. I promise you that. Career politicians are why, when John Cornyn first got started as a United States Senator, over $200 billion in debt. Today, we are $38 trillion in debt, currently $2 trillion annual deficit. And we don't have the tax revenue part of this country. We have the spending part of this country. And over the course of the next decade, we're going to be faced with some very tough decisions. And we need people that have skin in the game are going to be around to help make these decisions. The way our founding fathers wanted this was you come from a particular area of this country, you go serve in the halls of Congress and sit in DC, but you better make good laws. Because at some point, you have to go back home and build the laws that you make. But when you're in DC for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, in Joe Biden's case, 375 years, you still caring about the laws that you make. The average age of the CEO of a Fortune 500 company in the United States is 56 to 58 years old. The average age of the Senate is 10 years plus now. That is unacceptable. We are not sending our best and brightest people. And since they will turn them themselves, it's up to you to vote for me, to turn them in for themselves. Every time I travel around this state, one thing I hear is this: Wesley, thank you so much for giving us an option. I am somebody that's an American first people. In my early 40s, in the same vein as J.D. Vance, in the same vein as our Secretary of War was in his mid-40s. Our Secretary of State is in his early 50s. First of all, we're the only one that actually can vote for President Trump. But secondly, he understands that we are the future, and we are that rich generation from the older generation to the youngest generation to get us through a very tumultuous time that we're fighting through right now. And if we don't step up and do this now, then by God, we're going to lose our country. That's why I gave up my seat in Houston, Texas, in my hometown to run for Senate. I could have been in that seat for as long as I was thinking. Could have been that seat for as long as I wanted. Could have had a primary challenger. Could have settled and been comfortable for a decade. But the one thing the Lord taught me a very long time ago is life is not about being comfortable. When you're comfortable, you don't grow and you don't spread the word. You don't spread his kingdom. God led me to be uncomfortable and give up this seat and fight for Texas. And where I end up, that's up to God's plan, and it's my job to follow it and do his will. And with that attitude, that's how we're going to save this nation. God truly shed his grace on me. But if we stop praising him, and if we stop acknowledging him, he will take this land from us. And that is why this is the greatest country in the world. Because every single generation, we have great patriots that say, here I am, Lord, send me. That's how I was raised. That's what I believe. That's what I feel in my heart. I'm watching TV, a little kiddos, and I'm finding out that there's a lot of ads that are being run against me now. It's really funny. When I first got this first job, when it said this was a vanity project and I had no shot, no one knows who I am. And then I'm finding out that I did things on TV that I didn't even know I did. The lies that are being told, the games that are being played. But thank God that God prepared me, because I've been shot at before in combat. This is something I've been through more difficult things. But this is the essence of being uncomfortable in life. It prepares you for greater challenges that you will have to face at some point. Always choose the harder path. Always choose the harder ride over the easier one. But we will be blessed because of that, and our country will be better off. I'm doing this because I believe in Texas. I'm doing this because I believe in you. I'm doing this because I believe that Washington politicians have forgotten about what it means to be an everyday American. That's something I will assure you I'll never forget. One of my favorite stories, I'll leave with this to answer any questions that you might have, because I'm the one that's actually running a campaign and traveling around the state and answering questions and looking at voters in their eyes. My favorite story this past year was a year ago. President Trump invited me to go to the Army Navy. We're moving on. Anybody in the Army Navy game, not this past year, but the year before. And it was quite the honor. It was 20 years actually to the year in which I got invited to that game. It was the last that I was on that field, marching on that field. 20 years earlier. And we got to sing the national anthem. It was really cool because I'm on CBS and all my classes texted me like, dude, you're sitting next to the president-elect right now singing the national anthem. That's about as word that's out of the pot. After we got done singing the national anthem, we turned to people who's wrestling with me going for the rest of the day today. And I said, Mr. President, thank you so much for having me. I'm so cool to came back home to Houston. Congratulations, I look forward to seeing you at the inauguration. He goes, would you like to fly back to Colorado with me? And I said, yeah, Mr. President, I live across the time of that shit. Sure, yeah, let me tell you something. I got to fly back with me and the president of South Force. I got to hear about his vision for the country. I got to hear about what he wanted to do, what his plans were. I got to hear about Elon talk about how important time is to him. He doesn't care about money anymore. He wants to do things that's going to impact humanity. I got to hear about Doge. I got to hear about the plans for the future of this country that are far greater than what the alternative could have ever been. And even though things may not be perfect right now, don't ever forget how bad it could have been. We landed, we had dinner. I think, I'll never forget that moment. But the most profound moment of that entire day was the only flight out of Fort Lauderdale direct back to Houston was Spirit Airlines. I went from Force One, which is a big to Spirit Airlines in the same day. And I boarded Spirit Airlines and I'm in a three-piece suit and an overcoat, clearly overdressed. And I sat down and I started talking to people on the plane. They're like, you look really nice. Where are you coming from? I was like, wait till I tell you. And I realized something very, very quick. I felt just at home on Spirit Airlines as I did on Trump Force One. Because what I realized is this: no matter what plane you're on, no matter where you're going, as long as you are living under God's green earth in this great nation, we have the honor of calling ourselves America. Nobody is better than anybody else. We are all in this boat together. I've been saved by the blood of Christ, so I don't ask for much. But the only thing I ask from you all today is prayer. Pray for me, pray for my family, pray for our safety, pray for this country, pray for our president, pray for the future of this country. For the Lord hears the prayers of the righteous. And that's why we will never stop praying. We will trust without ceasing. We will always rely on the good Lord. Because all this is in his hands. We're going to be moving. With that said, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And thank you all so much for being here. God bless you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Even the Air Force guy. Thank you for your service.
Great around Texas. We had 600 hours on that time in Vietnam, 200 trucks, 40 CDF, broke my back there. But I want to clear with you on permanence. Article 5, Articles of the Federation have permanence. Permanence will withdraw from the Constitution without the aid of the Federalist Papers. Because the second term was totally divorced, the representatives cared nothing about the people, only about who was going to get the second trial. So, I don't think there's any such questions as were educated in country that will not be elected by name recognition. So, we have to work
Thank you very much, sir. And I hear you, and here's kind of my thoughts on that. You are absolutely correct, and I don't disagree with anything that you just said, which is why there'll never be a such thing as Congress or the Senate voting in term limits. The argument that I make is that this day and age, at this time, 12 years is long enough. And at some point, we need people with a little bit of honor to say, I've served for 12 years, I've served for over a decade. It's time for us to allow the next generation into this fight, and the next person that can have a fresh look at the Constitution, where this country is, where we are, as a country and as a state, and implement different policies moving forward, unless we end up with Trump. But sir, you are exactly correct, and I don't disagree. Thank you. And most importantly, sir, God bless you and thank you for your service. You didn't hear that enough. Thank
You
you.
said some actual items.
I bet you do. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Patrick Irvin. I'm a high school history teacher in Colorado. Recently, I told my students to ask some questions. And if they could ask a candidate, what would they ask? We could combine about asking 2 different questions to my students. First question.
It better be good, it better be good.
First question, Austin Castleberry. How has your service in the military shaped the way you make decisions in Congress?
That's an excellent question. Because of my time in combat, at the age of 25, 26 years old, and the decisions that I had to make at 25 to 26 years old, it's why I realized that you don't have to be a career politician to be competent in your craft as long as your heart's in the right place. You can figure out how to vote. You can figure out legislation. The issue is, what is your motive, what are your motives, and how do you want to lead moving forward? Are you going to do what's right by the American people, or are you going to do what's right by DC? You are faced with a lot of choices that you have to make in DC. There's a lot of pressure up in DC. That you'd be surprised at what you might get from leadership. But do you have the guts to tell leadership, no? Based on my experience at 26 years old, I absolutely have the guts to tell leadership, no. When I first got in this race, I was told by the swamp, I call it sewer, because the swamp was actually kind of a nice ecosystem that things grow across the line. But I didn't kind of hear. What I learned from the sewer very quickly is that when I first got this race, I was told not to run. Don't get in this. You're crazy. This is a 24-year company. We're going to protect our own. We're going to spend upwards of $100 million to keep you out of it. Stay in your seat. It's not your time. See all that? And that takes courage and guts, and that's what I learned with combat. And I will be right by you, no matter what. I have the guts and courage to say no.
Second question. I apologize. This one is Taylor Jefferson. Her question is, can you share a moment in your work or collaboration that generally reshaped your perspective on an issue and how the experience influenced your approach today?
So the entire energy corridor is in my district in Houston, Texas, all right. And so I don't know if y'all know about Houston and the energy corridor, because Houston's kind of known as being the energy capital of the world. But the entire energy corridor is in my district, makes me the energy congressman of the world. So I got my marching orders when I first got to Congress as to an industry that I could collaborate with the most in order to make sure that I serve the people in my district and the people of Texas to the best of my ability. Got 2 bills signed into law that are pro-energy, that helps deregulation, that makes us produce energy at a safer, quicker, and better rate. 2 bills signed into law in just 3 years. I could collaborate with the oil and gas and energy industry when we get those bills done. It was a joy to do it. Also, my team and I, who are back there, we actually did a brief docu-series on the oil and gas and energy industry to see how it works, to see the technology, to see the value chain from top to bottom. Because again, Texas is the 8th largest economy in the entire world. 8th largest GDP in the world is Texas. Number 9 is Russia. I told you all that because I want to partner hand in glove with the energy industry as a whole and be the energy center of the world as well. Because what I've realized is that that's an empty void that needs to be filled. It was Joe Manchin from West Virginia, he didn't get reelected, and now I realize that we don't have an energy center. And we're sitting right here on a permanent basis. This is Texas. Every single business and every single industry is tangentially related to the oil and gas and energy industry. So those collaborations, the knowledge that my team and I have gained and earned, collaborating with that very important key industry, has really helped shape the way I view foreign policy and domestic policy today based on the lens of energy. Thank you.
I'd like to ask you that go from hundreds of millions of dollars to billions of dollars, and now we're at almost $48 billion. I live in a small rural community, and I'm watching the people out there around me get crushed by inflation, and I mean crushed. They're coming for money, they can't feed their kids. And a lot of this spending, I think there's a lot of waste from that. What is your plan to cut that?
Well, keep in mind that GDP is up, inflation is down, cost is coming down. Keep in mind, President Trump got elected. Why? Because of the price of eggs and the price of gas, both of which are down in the war a year ago. Why? In large part because of this tariffs, because of the swift action they took to right our economy. While things aren't perfect, and while there's still some work to do, this is why I always say, imagine how much worse it could have been. We cannot let perfection be the enemy of good. Yes, we have some work to do. Yes, we need to continue to head in the right direction. But most importantly, we need to embrace what President Trump is doing and codify his executive orders, into law. And then that's how we begin to build for the future instead of the kind of economic policies that's pro-growth that drives costs down. Secondly, I talk about being an energy guy. Energy is an input for everything. If we keep regulation low, if we keep production at a rate where everybody is happy, the producers are happy, and the consumers are happy, which we can do because we have vast amount of resources in this country, if we're able to modulate that and work hand in glove with industry and also ensure that the consumer is happy and affordable, we're going to be just fine. But again, we need to stay the course, and this could be way worse. Thank you. Yes, sir. I think I mentioned earlier, for example, for deciding for 2 years, so I've lived in the country that I felt I'm sure is law. It's the reason why we have our own constitutional republic, we have our own laws here, we will abide by the rules and laws of this country. So it's very simple, federal advantage to the law. It's not accepted. So we can actually do that, we just need to do it and implement the laws we have in our books. Furthermore, I'm not xenophobic or racist or anything like that. I'm just telling you that if you want to choose to serve everybody within the confines of your own home, that's fine. If you want to go to your own place of worship, again, it's a free country, last I checked. The issue is when you start having communities that then abide by different sets of rules, that's the problem, and then that becomes cancerous. Like I said, we have our own set of laws here, and we have ethnic communities all over this country. We have Chinese communities, Vietnamese communities, Hispanic communities, Black communities, you name it. But we follow the laws of this land. The law of this land. So I am tired of trying to ameliorate liberals by saying, oh no, well, this community could live by a different set of rules outside this one. That's not how that works. And then I'm somebody that's been all over the world. You don't go to somebody else's country and do your own thing, right? They'll kick your butt out, pretty much. Why is it any different? So that's my thing. Yes, sir.
Well, here in Clinton County, my home next to the one so, of course, the question that you go out there, the Trump bill doing really hardly anything for runways. It dropped the energy taxes to zero. It is an abuse system. The most useless restriction is essentially a no planning reform. Any plans or any thoughts, only when you sit down and get a deregulate, people more settled for Texas and
This is a really good thing about Texas, is that we do our best at the statewide level to not allow the federal government to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. So this is kind of about the grace of God, thank God that we're here in Texas. So to be honest with you, I'm not actually worried about Texas, I'm worried about the country. Every single American should have access, every single law-abiding American should have equal access to a weapon. It's the reason why we have our Second Amendment. Now, we have some very granular issues that we need to address because, quite frankly, it just takes a good guy who does have a bad guy. You see, most people can't understand that there's over 400 billion guns currently in circulation. Pandora's box is open. If you add more rules, if you add more laws, the only thing you're going to do is prevent a law-abiding citizen from attaining a weapon that they want. Because do you know what a criminal does by definition? They break more laws. So they're not going to pay attention to what you want to do. It is our right to be able to protect ourselves. It's our right to be able to protect our families and to protect ourselves against what? Tyrannical governments. That's why a lot of things you see happening all over this country, especially in blue states. You're not going to see that happen in Texas. Because I have 5 people in my house. I have 3 babies and a beautiful wife. And I have an AR-15 for every last one. And if somebody walks in my house, you're going to get a birthday present. You know what? And that's not the whole point. The idea of being able to protect ourselves. So we're talking to somebody who's a big Second Amendment guy who wants to deregulate that, some of these draconian laws. Just get rid of them because they are senseless and it should be access to the gun for a law-abiding citizen should be very easy. And then also a law-abiding citizen trains. They take care of their rights. They lock them up. They ensure that other people don't have access to them. We are talking about freedom. We're talking about law-abiding citizens, which, by the way, that's most of us. I watched the left rail on the NRA, and what's embarrassing about the NRA is that like 100% of NRA membership are law-abiding citizens. In order to be a member of the NRA, you have to be a law-abiding citizen. And that's what makes this country different from so many places. One quick example. I watched what happened in Australia during COVID. And it was a mess here. But I don't know if you're ever paying attention to what happened in Australia. You see, the government was not allowing people to leave their front porches. But you know that happened in Texas? It happened in Texas. And the reason why it's not happening in Texas is because of our Second Amendment that shall not be infringed. So I'm a guy that was going with you on that. Let's get rid of these regulations and understand if a law-abiding citizen wants to obtain a weapon, we should make it harder, we should make it way easier for them to do. Lastly, what's the fastest growing demographic of our membership in this country? Black women. Wow, we should look at that. Why? Black women want to be able to protect themselves. This cuts across all racial, gender lines. This is about your rights in America. And that's what, of course.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. That's like my favorite.
I'm from Coolidge, Texas, and I'm county over in Monmouth County. I'm a recent home design specialty in immigration back with the Kansas State University. My question is to you is, if you were to be like, what will you do, and you can give me some feedback and thoughts on this, what will you do to help the smaller communities, such as the city that has really bad population growth and really active population growth, to compete with greater cities around the area, see better water from the creeks. Because honestly, we're being forced to compete with cities that are like 45,000 people. Our city only gets 7,000. And it's really, we're denying grants over governments because the bigger cities are receiving them over us.
You're looking for it? Okay. Quick citizen lesson here. Here's what's important about knowing what you're running for and what your job is. Part of the federal government, part of my job, being even a United States Congressman at the federal level, and to be your next senator, is to keep the federal government out of your life. This is a constitutional republic, which means not the democracy, it's a republic. That's why every single state has a government, every single state has a lieutenant governor, every single state has a state house, and a state senate, state reps. You are asked to be a state question. And I'm not trying to tell that. I was trying to tell you, you do not want the government getting involved at that granular level because they're going to screw it up. So I would much rather leave that to the state, your local municipality, your counties, and then they get to then lobby the statewide budget to advocate for infrastructure for your towns. You actually have more power when it's set up that way. It's far easier to get to your state rep and to your state senator than it is to get to the United States Senate. Much better, much easier that way. And here's what I would say. We do have community-funded projects that we can grant at the federal level. John Cornyn doesn't participate in those, but I would. So if there is a case-by-case basis throughout this state that I would be helpful with, especially when it comes to infrastructure, I will absolutely take a look at it. But also, I want you to know, it's up to you to fight at the local level. And Texas has a pretty big budget, thank God for oil. And it's surplus. And yes, it's tough to get to the governor. Yes, they meet every other year in session. But keep in mind, it's way better to lobby what you want at the state level than it is at the federal level. Thank you. This question is about data center. This is also the neat part about traveling around the state of Texas, not just here in Waco. I'm hearing about this in Lubbock, you're going to send and Midland as well. And so here's the deal. Data centers already exist in mass here, especially in the state of Texas. They're already here. Where do you think, where do you watch Netflix? You watch Netflix? Do you know where all that information is stored? Data center. They're already here. You are correct, sir. More are coming. And the issue is power generation and water. That's the problem. As an energy guy, I'm somebody that understands you have got to get ahead of that curve, so we're not stopping it coming. It's coming. So if we know that, how can we produce more abundant and safe energy by deregulating the oil and gas and energy industry to accommodate this growth? You're watching a lot of unlikely bedfellows when you're seeing the oil and gas and energy industry partner with the tech companies. Because I thought they didn't need us, and I thought they needed us when they sold their renewables. Come to find out they need natural gas as well. The issue now is, how can we regulate as little as possible to accommodate that growth, most importantly, here's the catcher, so the cost doesn't get pushed down to the consumer. God gave us an abundance of energy. There's no excuse for that to happen. If we're sitting on a running basis, there's no excuse for that to happen. It just takes leaders that understand this point and get ahead of it so that we don't suffer. And that's one of my top priorities. Hence the reason why I'm the future energy senator. Of course you can, sir. Yes. That's actually the CHIPS Act. That's from the Biden administration. They did a lot of things wrong. It's up to us to fix it. Okay? There's no point in blaming. It's not like the Affordable Care Act. There is absolutely no point in blaming who started the fire. We're in charge. It's up to us to lead and put the fire out. And the way we do that, sir, is creating competition in the market, ensuring that we have strength throughout the entire world, particularly with Taiwan, That's an issue. And I noticed since President Trump was in charge, China hasn't said anything about invading Taiwan. I think they got the memo from Iran and from Israel. So I think we're going to be okay for the next 3 years. What happens when he is gone? It's the definition of peace through strength because the majority of world chips are produced in Taiwan. But why aren't they produced here as well in mass? We have capabilities to do it. We have to get ahead of that. And this is a global issue. It's a global market. We have to work together to get that done. But there's no reason why we can't continue to innovate in our own country and build stuff here in this country as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
I got this to do, maybe you could address. That was not the first one. According to his name on it. That's gonna be his mom.
Oh, this is good. I haven't seen this one yet. Oh, man, no shit. This is great. You're good. So I just find this fascinating. This is what I mean by the lies that we told about you. So it's really interesting. When I was traveling with President Trump, I met him in Chicago, and we took his plane from Chicago to Colorado to Reno to Coachella, California back to Las Vegas, Trump Tower in one day. One day. So this guy is unbelievable. And I'm opening for him speaking at every stop. By the time I got done with that day, I couldn't even move. And then he got the next morning and flew to Charlotte and gave up speakers like this guy he's actually Superman. When I was in the bathroom in Reno, I was giving a speech, and I was traveling with President Trump, giving these speeches. And sitting in the front row was John Cornyn. But he wasn't there for President Trump. He was there for the candidate. You see, he wasn't supportive of President Trump ever. I did my opening for President Trump introducing him, and then he says that I turned my back on President Trump. That's the biggest lie you could ever manufacture. This is silly season in politics. He says Wesley would skip 90% of the votes this year. Yeah, that's because I'm trying to trouble him. Here's how this works. You can't be in two places at one time. You see, for the past 2 months, I have been in a different city or a different county every single day working to unseat John Cornyn. Do you know how many votes J.D. Vance missed when he became the vice presidential nominee? All of them. And do you know why? Because he's campaigned to make this country a better place. 2 times in the last 2 months, the president has called me, or leadership called me, said, Wesley, we really need your vote. And I canceled my events that day, and I was on the first day smoking to ensure that we got President Trump's agenda across the finish line. The votes that I missed are attendance votes, and namely, I know the post office got the Sacagawea again. I can assure you that you can trust me that when I show up, I'm going to show up and vote the right way for you. I wish John Cornyn would have skipped more votes, like the legislation votes. I participated in Operation Chaos in 2008. That's why I voted for Hillary in that Democratic primary. And of course, I voted Republican. I never ever voted for Barack Obama. You can't vote for Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama in the same year. You understand what I'm saying? So when he puts both of them on here, it's just fascinating. Because you participate in Operation Chaos or not, it's one or the other. And this is what I call silly season in politics, and it's not going to work. This is also the same guy that said that this was a vanity project, no one knows who I am, it wasn't going to work, and then I was spending millions of dollars sending this out. That's all you need to know. I am right over the target zone. Trust me, I am your God. He is not. Thank you.
In regards to the recent activity of the U.S., getting a heavier military presence in Iran, what do you think the next steps are for the U.S. and is it going to be safe? Because if it starts a war with that.
Define heavier presence in the moment. Aircraft, that's not. So here's the thing. I'm a war fighter, so I've been watching this very, very carefully, and I'm somebody that is very cognizant of what it means to put our young men and women in harm's way, because I was one of these guys that fought in one of these 10-year wars that cost us $3 trillion and thousands of lives. I was a part of these wars. What President Trump has done this past year has been nothing short of remarkable and a quintessential definition of peace and strength. I'm going to tell you why. There were a lot of liberals that were talking about if we fought Iran, it's not that getting a nuclear weapon, we're going to end up in World War III. No World War III. First cabinet deployed, ASEC airborne is deployed. Sure, we do maneuver to show forces of strength every now and again with aircraft carriers and submarines, but the idea of us getting involved in a very long 10-year quagmire for this dollars, actually, we actually put the kibosh on that. And then not only that, we are now respected again on a global scale. If you look at what happened with Maduro, that was the most gangster thing I've ever seen. And I am somebody that flew a lot of these combat missions, the coordination that it took to take that off, the intelligence that it took to pull that off. And then they did it when they were getting ready to have a meeting with who? The Chinese. And at the same time, we're sitting here bombing Marble terrorist boats that are carrying fentanyl to kill American citizens. Imagine now being a cartel member getting in a boat with 1 degree to eat a missile for breakfast. Notice you don't see these boats anymore, and fentanyl tests are down. That's called peace through strength. And for the next 3 years, we watch to see what happens. No one's going to mess with us. They're going to take a pass on this guy. They're going to wait to see if we screw this one after he gets here. Somebody in like Gavin Newsom and J.D. Vance. They're going to wait. But as long as we have strength, we're not going to have to worry about war. As long as we have a strong military that talks about you want to serve this country based on your merit or hard work or grit determination, not DEI. Because when I ended up in the military, there was no DEI, and I made it out just fine. Along with my sister and my brother, focused on war fighting, being at the tip of the spear technologically. All these things are happening under President Trump's watch. So, my answer to you about Iran is that, yes, there's like upheaval in Iran right now, but there's been upheaval in that region for generations. There's always going to be some sort of upheaval. The issue is can it be managed chaos? And under President Trump, he had world peace the first time he was president, and we're trending toward world peace again. And last I checked, America today is backed. Do not listen to liberals. They will tell you otherwise. That's because they're just jokes. Because of the president that's doing the right thing, doing what he says he is going to do, and now everyone knows who's in charge. Thank you.
So, midterm election, what percentage of voters actually come out and vote? Very small, right?
That's right.
Two reasons, I believe. You brought up leadership on the top, you talked about 80 million, that one guy, Mitch McConnell, who's been there forever, had that money. How did he get that money? Why is that right for him to have that money to dole out to these names like Cornyn, that's been around forever, and not give it to you? Because that money shouldn't even be involved in our life. Okay? Where does it come from? Second thing is this, and I'm saying this because the two biggest turnoffs, why people don't vote, is big money. They know they can't beat big money, and the grudge. We should have had at least 4 or 5 people hurt ball on the grudging that's going on since Donald Trump won. Trying to get him out because he's not in the club. And the club is where the money comes from. What can be done about this from your point of view as in the Senate, in the House? What can be done? We're supposed to have campaign reform, but Mitch McConnell's got these millions and millions to give to guys that are 80 years old.
Well, Bishop McConnell's on the way out, so the head of the NRC.
Right.
Tim Scott is the one that paid for this. He's the one that paid for this. He's the one that actually requires $2 million to be spent in a Republican primary. I guess, in battle. Incumbent's been around for 2 decades, that clearly is in trouble. So you ask, how do we get around that? It takes very courageous people, and it takes better candidates. You see, I don't know if you ever recall, but we got Ted Cruz because of the Dewhurst Cruz battle, if you recall. Dewhurst was the establishment pick. Cruz was one heck of a candidate during the Tea Party movement, and that's how we got him. Dewhurst was the pick of the establishment. Marco Rubio versus Chris back in Florida. Chris was clearly the establishment. He was such a wino that he would become a Democrat. After Marco won that race, it takes good candidates with a lot of courage to step up and take on the system and then trust you. What I also believe, sir, hard work is more important than money. Hard work pays off. I'm the person traveling across the state. I'm the person showing my face to people this great state of Texas. I'm not resting on my laurels. There's a reason why they're hating me with this, because they realize that he is a good candidate. He is clearly a threat to the system. We are dealing with people that would rather have a Democrat in the seat than have a Republican that they can't control. That's why I'm here. Because at the end of the day, I will represent you. And if I get my message out to we the people and the people of Texas, that's how we beat that Leviathan. And then they got to deal with me and Ted Cruz. Could you imagine that? When I was talking to President Trump, he said this to me. You know, a lot of people, we want to see perp walks, and people, we want to see handcuffs. Yeah, I want to see handcuffs too, to be honest with you. You know what he said this night? He said, Wesley, that day will come, but my victory will be my revenge. I have too much work to do in the first 18 months than to be concerned with that right now. And he's right. He's right. I know it's hard for us to let that go. I know it's hard for us to sit back and watch perpetrators walk. But also, that man has a job to do. He's the busiest man in the world. He had a country to save in 4-year investigation. And if he's taking time trying to figure out how to get revenge on people that did wrong, it hurts the American people. It does. It takes a pretty big man to be able to do it. Now, here's what I will tell you. After the midterms, good luck to all those people that did that stuff. At that point, he become the lame duck president. We're working on J.D. Vance coming up next, and I think the president will have time to do 2 things. Play golf and find out who's right. And I don't want to be on there ready to happen. But for right now, we have the midterms that we have to get through. We have to get this done. He had to work rapidly in this first year in order for us to get to this point where the economy is where it is given what happened the previous school years. I respect that. I respect their desire, but at the end of the day, we have work to do. Let the vengeance go to the Lord for right now. We'll figure this out. I found one. Yes, ma'am. You've been very patient. Thank you, ma'am.
I just have a question. I know that you're working on the state trying to government in order to get some so my question is there anything you can do about voter? I mean, we're looking at having an ID with a face picture. Right now, people are getting those IDs with a face with a picture, but they still are not legal residents in this country. Can you do anything about that?
Well, that's actually the same back as far as our passage, which is why we should filibuster. It is a state issue. It is a state issue, but the state act, what the state act does though, is why we should do the filibuster, because at the end of the day, there are certain federal ramifications that we should have that apply to every single state, and that is having a photo ID to vote and being a United States citizen. That's it. Now, do we want to federalize election procedure? No. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You don't want the federal government involved in that, but you want the federal government to ensure that people who do vote in our elections, especially for the federal government, are in fact American citizens. And that's understanding the difference of what we can do at the federal level and not. And I want to stop short of that because we start getting into a very difficult situation when we start federalizing our elections. But it's our job to ensure that those that do vote have ID. By the way, it's very easy to get ID. Even for black people. Blue Bush won't tell you that, but they think that we're too stupid to get an ID. Like I don't know why, a lot of brown people just can't get an ID, it's really funny. It's to ensure that you are a United States citizen voting in our election, choosing our leadership. And who's holding up to say that? Are the Republicans? Are the Republicans? It's Tillis, it's McCollum, it's Collins. If it weren't an election year, it would absolutely be good. And that's why he's in this position. Thank you. Thank you very much.